Have you determined if you were prepared for retirement? Have you asked yourself these 7 questions about your retirement plan? And maybe more importantly, have you found answers to these 7 questions? Would it be helpful to have a professional help you build, implement, and maintain your retirement plan, both before your retirement, during the transition into retirement, and then all the many years that you enjoy retirement? Hello and welcome back to another Money Not Math conversation. It is Thursday, December 8th, and I appreciate you coming back today for another conversation. In today's conversation, we are talking about questions to ask yourself during retirement planning. And in doing so, we're reviewing the article written on usanews.com. And so we're going to jump right into the article. But as always, I want you to know that the reason why I do these conversations and the reason why I do the work that I do in helping people plan for their retirement is because I love our country, but I believe our government is terrible at managing money and should not control our financial future. So I do my best to help my clients build, implement, and maintain their retirement plans to help them have confidence in retirement and live as happy of lives as possible. So let's jump into the article. Like I said, it's titled Questions to Ask Yourself During Retirement Planning, written by usnews.com. And here's how to determine if you are prepared for retirement, specifically written by Rodney Brooks. Many people are living longer, which means your retirement could last for decades. But that doesn't mean you should start planning later. Developing a thoughtful plan can help you have a positive experience in retirement. Here are 7 questions to ask yourself before you retire. 1. When do you want to retire? 2. Have you saved enough for retirement? 3. How will you maintain your standard of living? Right? Most people don't work a really, really long time to enter retirement and then live a less fulfilling life. Number 4, are your investments appropriate for a long life in retirement? 5, are your affairs in order? 6, do you want to leave a legacy? 7, how will you spend the extra time in retirement now that you're not working? Going back to question number 1, when do you want to retire? You might get to decide when to leave the workforce, or you may be forced into retirement ahead of schedule. If you have an unforeseen circumstance, would you be able to retire sooner than that goal date? Because a lot of times things happen, health issues arise, and your circumstances change, says Jennifer Belmont Jennings, a senior wealth advisor at Hightower Wealth Advisors in St. Louis, Missouri. You might not make it to your goal retirement date before you need to actually retire. So this is important for many reasons. First, it's always important to plan for what you want to happen while preparing for what could happen. All right. So understanding on the positive side of things, understanding when you want to retire, generally speaking, or very specific if you're getting close, is important because that'll help you and your trusted advisor position your assets in such a way that makes sense both from a risk standpoint, but also from a cash flow and tax standpoint. All of those things need to be considered because it's really important to make sure that we don't run out of money in retirement, right? And to make sure that that happens, we have to understand when that retirement may happen to make sure we pull the right levers at the right time. On the negative or on the potentially unexpected side of things, that's important because if you're forced into retirement, whether it's due to being fired, losing your job, or medical reasons, or whatever the reason might be, do you have the proper protections in place and your money positioned in such ways that you have the flexibility to live a lifestyle that's conducive in retirement if you're forced into it, whether that's earlier or otherwise. All right, so question number 2, have you saved enough to retire? Consider how much retirement income you will receive from Social Security, investments, and passive income. Look at your savings and sit down with a financial planner to determine a sustainable drawdown rate and how long your money will last. If the numbers don't work out, you may need to continue working, get a job in retirement, or plan for a lower standard of living in retirement, but who wants to do that? Remember to factor in inflation, right? Nothing is the same cost today as it was 10 years ago. Right. And if we have 3% inflation moving forward every year, on average, everything will be twice as expensive 20 years from today as it was today. Okay. So just general things to keep in mind that costs don't stay flat in retirement. So the cost of living is going to increase while you have no income, says J.R. Gondeck, managing director and partner with the Lerner Group in Deerfield, Illinois. And a really important thing with this is that I find the biggest mistake, or not the biggest, but one of the most common mistakes people make when it comes to retirement planning is they ask themselves, have I saved enough, without understanding what the pile of money they've saved and how that translates into cash flow or income, right? When we in retirement, whether you have 1 million, 2 million, $3 million, or $300,000 in your 401k, that doesn't really mean anything because you're not going to spend all that money in 1 year. The question we have to answer is, how will the money you've saved turn into income for you? And is that income going to be enough? And if it's not, how are we going to go out and save more or get the money you've already saved to push out more for you in retirement or in different ways? All right. So it's really important to understand, one, how much have we saved, but more importantly, how much will that nest egg pay us in retirement? Question number 3, how will you maintain your standard of living? Many people assume that their expenses will decrease in retirement, and there could be some costs you can eliminate. However, many of your expenses will stay the same, and some may even increase. You might want to spend more in retirement, perhaps to travel and do things you couldn't do when you were working. Everybody's assumption is you spend less in retirement, Gondeck says. The reality is you spend 20 to 25% more because you have more time to spend. So let that sink in for a second. The reality is you spend 20 to 25% more because you have more time to spend. Ask yourself, do you spend more money on a Tuesday when you go to work for 8 hours and then you go home or do whatever you do after work, or on a Saturday when you have all day? All right. So, or on the weekend if you go out and things like that. So when you're in retirement, every day is a Saturday. So we have to understand from a lifestyle standpoint, especially if you aren't disciplined around your budget, you might actually end up spending more than when you were working. So to go into retirement with the assumption that you're just going to automatically spend less without doing any really critical or accurate planning could be a really false assumption. Next question. Are your investments appropriate for a long life in retirement? All right, this is really important because many people believe their biggest risk in retirement is their health or market volatility. What they fail to understand is that because we're living longer, the biggest risk, the number one risk to retirement is longevity, right? The longer you live, the more things cost, but also the longer your investments have to last. And the worst thing, we definitely don't want you to run out of money while you're in retirement. So they say in the article is think about how long you won't be working after retirement. Many people live into their 80s and 90s. You could live longer in retirement than you did in your working life. This is going to help speak to how much you need to put away and how it should be invested, Jennings says. A lot of your money needs to be invested for the long term, especially if you live 30 to 40 years after retirement. And what we have to understand with this is we may get to pick when we retire, but we likely aren't going to pick how long we live in retirement. So what we do for our clients that work with me and my team is we build our clients a war chest for our short-term spending. And then the rest of a lot of the money after that, right? Every situation is different. And we build unique custom plans for all of our clients. But generally speaking, we're looking at a long-term investment plan for a majority of the assets because we're thinking about, one, we don't know how long we're going to live in retirement. It could be 20, 30, 40 years, but also though the time horizon on those investments isn't just our lifetime, it's our children and grandchildren's lifetime if it's important to us to leave a legacy. So it's really important to understand how we're investing our money, how we're allocating our assets, and what the timeline actually is for those assets, and make sure we understand the risks and allocations accordingly. Next question. Are your affairs in order? Make sure you have important financial documents in place, including a will or trust, living will, and medical or healthcare power of attorney. Dying without a will can burden your loved ones, who, while suffering through grief, may also have to figure out how to pay bills, find financial and legal documents, and hire an estate attorney. As sad as it is to say, unfortunately, when money gets involved, sometimes families get torn apart. So please don't let your family be that family, and just have your wills and trusts in place so that they don't have to deal with all that stuff. They can just grieve, the way that seems natural to them at the time, rather than having to deal with money and things like that. Next question. Do you want to leave a legacy? Some retirees want to spend and enjoy the money that they have accumulated, while others intend to leave funds to children and grandchildren or a charity. And some want to do both. Some people are going to spend every penny, and for some people, it's really important to make sure they're passing something on to the next generation, Gondeck says. That's going to change how you put money away and the way that you put money away. 100% right. Going back to the point I made 2 questions ago, your intention for your retirement and your money completely alters how it should be invested, right? So you have to be really aware and really transparent with your advisor on what your intentions are for your money and if it's important to leave legacy or not. And if you and your advisor haven't had this discussion yet, I strongly encourage you have it soon. Last question, how will you spend the extra time? In addition to your financial plan, you should determine how you would like to spend your days in retirement. You used to have 8 to 10 hours per day with your job in your 30 or 40-year career. Now you have that extra time, Gondeck says, but put some really deep thought into how you will spend your time in retirement. Because again, how you spend your time likely determines how you spend your money. All right, so that's today's conversation. Those are 7 questions to ask yourself during retirement planning. I hope it brought you value. Please let me know what questions or thoughts you have. And please, if you enjoyed this conversation, share, comment, or like it. And if you can reach out to me directly with any questions or requests for future Money Not Math conversations. Thank you again for your time and hope you have a great day. Bye.